Okay, we're back in the kitchen. We're going to be doing the dumplings. It's still a little early for me to do the dumplings, but I, again, have assembled my salt and my flour is ready to go in my mixing bowl. My milk has been out for quite some time, and you just want to make sure that the milk is starting to get warm. You don't want it hot, because when you add your eggs to your milk mixture, you don't want to scramble the eggs. You want your milk, though, to be warm. So by the time I'm ready to use this, and I'm going to start doing this after I've put this roast into the oven, I'll show you the trick. The one thing I forgot to mention is you're going to want a fairly big stock pot or a large pot for when you make your dumplings. And make sure it has a lid. It's very important that this recipe, you need to have a lid, because what the lid does is it keeps the steam for when the dumplings are sitting in the water. And we're going to talk all about that as soon as I start to make it. My eggs have been sitting just as long as the milk has, so they are now warming up. That's pretty much tonight's dinner. You saw me do the pork. I'm going to put the pork in at 4:45, and then we're going to start the dumplings. When you make the dumplings, when they come out of the boiling water and you go to cut them, you're going to want to cut them right away. And I'm going to show you that. I have a different item that I use, and that's an actual dumpling cutter that was made in Czechoslovakia. They're really, really hard to find. If you do a Google search, you may actually be able to find a dumpling cutter, and they are meant for the bread dumplings as well as the yeast dumplings. They're a little bit harder to use on the yeast dumplings depending on how much dough you've used, how big of a dumpling it is, and how soft the yeast are. We're not doing yeast dumplings today. I'm going to do that in a later video. We are just doing a plain, ordinary bread dumpling. And I will show you that. You're also going to want to have a heavy-duty sieve to lift the dumplings out. If you don't have one of these, I would suggest getting these. You can get these online. You can get them in Target. I'm sure Walmart probably has a variety of this. Bed Bath & Beyond, if they're still in business. I know they're starting to close most of their stores, but you want one that's heavy duty. If you don't have a sieve this size, you can lift them out with a spoon, but you're going to want to drain the water that's on them. And I will show you that after the dumplings have cooked. Right now, my pots are totally empty because it's a little bit early to start getting that stuff out. In the meantime, you might be going, well, what are we all serving with this? Well, we're having the pork, we're having the sweet sour cabbage, and we're having dumplings. You don't need to serve anything else with that because your cabbage is your vegetable and your dumplings is your starch. You could do a salad if you want, or a pre-appetizer, but this meal doesn't really need any other type of vegetable. Now, when my grandmother made her pork loin roast with her dumplings, she didn't make the sweet sour cabbage. She actually opened a jar of sauerkraut, rinsed it twice, and did sauerkraut. That was my grandfather's favorite. I'm not big on sauerkraut, neither is my husband, and cabbage pairs very well with pork. So, we're doing the sweet and sour cabbage. So, that in a nutshell. Come back. I'll be back in about 45 minutes, and we're going to start the dinner. Okay, it is a little after 4:15. I just turned my oven on to 450 degrees. You're going to want a nice hot oven for the pork loin roast. And it's, like I said, it's going to take 2 hours at 450 degrees. make sure you move your rack, your top rack, to the lowest portion as you can go. And I don't know if you guys can see, I have two racks. I have one on the bottom and one on the top. So just move your rack to the lowest position, and you're going to use the top rack for your pork. I'm going to put it in about a half an hour. I still have not done the dumplings. We're going to talk about the dumplings fairly soon because I'm going to actually start getting them ready to go. They're not going to take all that long. They cook for 25 minutes. They have to have a half an hour rest period. So it'll take about an hour for the dumplings. So we're gonna wait a little bit longer for the dumplings. So I'll be back when I slide in the roast. Okay, all, I'm back. It is 4:45 or almost 4:45. I'm going to go ahead and slide the roast in. And like I said, the first half an hour, you're not going to add water to the pan. You're going to leave it alone, so make sure you set your timer for a half an hour. And at this point, you can go ahead and fill your glass with hot water. I'm going to let this get a little bit hot. And I'm going to show you, we're going to start doing the dumplings now. I'm just going to let the water heat up for a little bit. It may take a minute. So, if you've had your milk sitting, just put your finger in it. If it's a little bit cold to the touch, give it a little bit of heat for 30 seconds to 1 minute. You do not want the milk to boil, and you do not want to scorch it, but you do want the water to be... You want it to be warm. You don't want it to be hot, though. I've got my glass of hot water. At the same time, what you're going to do is fill your big pot with the hot water. And you're going to fill it almost to the top. You want about a good inch to 2 inches from the top with water. And I'll explain in a little bit why you want so much water. So this is going to just take a minute. In the meantime, since we've already made our cabbage, my cabbage is still in the refrigerator. That just needs to be warm. You can actually start getting that ready, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. Bigger pots take a little bit longer to fill. And you want to make sure you put enough water in your pot. It's better to have too much water than not enough water, because if you don't have enough water, what happens is your dumplings will dry out. So I will show you what I mean. And from having done this many, many times in my life, you can see I've got about a good 2 inches from the top, and that's fine. That's all the water you want. I'm just going to put the lid on it to keep it warm. I'm not going to turn the flame on yet because we don't need it yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my milk out, and we're going to start making the, and that's fine. If you can stick your finger in, my fingers are clean. I just put one finger in. As long as it feels a little bit warm and it does not feel hot. If the side of the glass or you put your finger in and it is hot, let your milk cool down before you do this next step. And it's very important. You're going to need a whisk for this. I'm going to take my 4 eggs, and I'm actually going to put you guys down so you guys can see this clearly. And you're just going to break your eggs into the milk. Just pretty lacy. And since I spilt a little bit of egg wash on my counter, I'm just going to go ahead and clean it. Eggs can carry salmonella, so treat eggs the same way that you would do poultry. If you get any on, give it a wash. That way you're not spreading anything that shouldn't be spreaded. So with your whisk, what you're going to do is you're just going to gently whisk this. And you don't want to be rough because you're already close to the top. You're just going to break the eggs and you're going to whisk them in. And your milk mixture should start to take on a yellow color. There we go. Sometimes you get one egg that just does not want to break. Okay. You can do this with a fork. It's a little bit more tricky to do it with a fork. Sometimes you get one stubborn egg that just does not want to pop. But that seems, yeah, that's all milk. Okay. Okay, now you can get rid of the whisk, and I will show you. I'm going to lift you guys up so you can see that it is now a pale yellow. So what you're going to do, and I'm going to put you guys down for this. You might not be able to see this. Put your mixture on stir. I think all KitchenAids nowadays have a stir, and it's the very first one so that it stirs. What you're just going to do is you're going to slowly add your mixture to your flour. And make sure you do this slowly, that you're not pouring the entire mixture all at once, because you want this to really combine. Now you may have noticed how my mixer was kind of struggling a little bit. And I wish I could bend you. I don't know if I can. I wonder if I can bend you guys. Yeah, this is not allowing me to bend you guys without, and I don't want to dump my thing off. But I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like. Let it stir for a minute. And this is where I said you need to kind of be careful and watch this, because you may need to add more flour to the mixture. And it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna stop the video for 1 second. I'll be right back.